What's up guys, I'm Gibson and today is the second part of my Horrific Visions guide. I will be using the same format as in the previous episode. I'm going as a dummy, taking damage and making mistakes. And you guys learned from my mistakes and apply this knowledge in your next run. Just to remind you, as soon as pre-patch hits, we lose corruptions, receive class changes, and visions will become harder. That is why in these two guides, I'm not just flying through visions to show how cool I am, but trying to be as much detailed as I can while going through every zone. Under my previous video, I had a question about the minimum requirements for a full clear. You see them right now on the screen. Luckily, I had a tune that had the perfect cloak and item level to actually test it before giving my recommendations. I want to start from the Titanic research first. Online resources recommend to take expensive mind and then get your gift of the Titans, and after that come back to this second tier. My recommendation would be, if you play in group, take the stabilizer, or if you solo in visions, take the defibrillation. This is a game changer, both of these researches. Yes, it makes your clear sight more expensive and all the rest researches basically, but it is a safe play. And it's much better to have cheat death or free res than lose a vessel. Now the map. We have two routes and can go to the Valley of Spirits and then the Valley of Wisdom, or go to the Drag first and then the Valley of Honor. Either way works. This is totally up to you which side you would want to clear first, but keep in mind that Rexar from the Valley of Honor is the toughest boss of all. You will need a Handy Notes add-on with Visions of N'Zoth edition installed to see locations of all buffs, chests and crystals. I will put the links under the video. The last two things that I want to cover in this pre-setup moment is the weak auras and sanity food. These weak auras right here are the ones that I found working the best for me. You use them to track your chests and crystals and your potions. It also shows you your gift of the Titan when it's up and the cooldown. The sanity food is the kebab. It restores 100 sanity with a 3 minutes cooldown. With my calculations, you'll need about 20 of them before you get more resistance and stop losing sanity so quick. You're already familiar with the starting zone, but for the sake of the guide, I will cover some mobs here too. Number 1 is Voidbound Shaman. He shoots lightnings that deal pretty low damage. No big deal, but kill him fast before he puts down the totem. If he put the totem, kill it ASAP, because it pulls you to its location when you expect the least. If pulling 2 packs or more, line aside the shamans while killing the other mobs, but beware of the totems, they have pretty long range. The guards. Ability number 1 is Break Spirit, a hit that deals a lot of damage. Move a bit to avoid. Second is Horrifying Shout. 3-4 seconds stun, usually followed by Break Spirit. Just interrupt it. If you're a druid or a rogue, you can skip starting packs, but these guys will see you. The rest of the mobs are not dangerous. Ravager spins like warrior and drops pretty quickly. Shield Bearer stuns with Shockwave. Move aside. Globules explode when dead, dealing shadow damage. Crawling corruptions buff themselves to hit harder, but lose movement speed. That's it. Done with the starting zone. Our first stop is the Valley of Spirits. Right at the beginning, you'll meet the elite that will give you some sanity back. His first ability is Surgeon Fist. It's a simple charge that knocks you back. A good idea is to turn him to the wall and just move when he casts it. Second ability is Decimator, a void ball that deals sanity damage and travels back. Move to avoid and stay until it returns. On the way back, it's empowered and drains tons of sanity. This ability usually goes right after the charge. Grey Storminer casts Mental Assault that deals little shadow damage. No big deal unless buffed. The Berserker puts a debuff on you and heals himself with auto attacks. Also not very dangerous, can take a little bit longer to kill under the debuff. Greater Void Elemental is the priority guy that puts a stacked debuff on you to receive 100% more shadow damage with each stack, which means that Terminer becomes more dangerous. Interrupt the cast. You don't want more than 2-3 stacks on you. Click the totems as you go to be able to attack the zone boss as soon as you get to him. Faceless Willbreaker is a beefy mob that casts void zones that deal shadow damage. All you have to do here is to avoid those zones and you'll be fine. By the way, you can skip that group easily if you run along the left wall. If you pull this group with 2 previous, you would want to kill the elemental ASAP to avoid the debuff stacks, because 3 or more can be deadly. You don't have to kill the last 2 mobs before the boss. Just run around the hut and go straight to the boss. First zone boss is the Villian Elemental. He also gives back sanity after being killed. Casts waves which you need to avoid because they stun and drain sanity. He also silences you and drops yellow orbs that you need to step on to be able to lose your abilities again. A good place to start the fight is behind the fence. That way at least the first orb will land almost at your feet. Now before moving to the lost area, make sure you have your kebab ready if you're low on sanity. Use it before the entrance while you're still in the corrupted area. The first lost area is the Valley of Wisdom. Right away we see Faceless Shadowcaller. He doesn't do much, casts spheres that create puddles that do shadow damage. Avoid them and you'll be fine. The next couple is Shadowcaller and Willbreaker. We already know how to deal with them, so just kill them and move on. Somewhere here you will get your Gift of the Titans proc. If you get it right after you kill them and you're above 50% sanity, rush to the elite mob and use your short cooldowns to take as much of his health as possible. You can actually pull these 2 guys with the first Shadowcaller. The fight is not very hard, just makes you move a lot. They're also beefy, so it will take some time to put them down. In this group, the only new mob that we see is Borrowing Appendage. His goal is to mess up your pull. This guy hides, drops your focus and then appears from under you and tosses you up. This can be really annoying and dangerous when you're pulling big. You will have to decide if you want to kill the tentacles first based on how you're pulling. They're not a big problem when you get used to avoid them. The elite is Void Crazed Hulk. He returns sanity after being killed. Try to face him away from the group if you haven't cleared it. If you have cleared the group and low on sanity, you can use the orb and pull him while the orb is still active. If you have the research unlocked and okay on sanity, keep the orb and don't waste sanity return. Start with Iris or Purification Protocol. His first ability is Explosive Leap. He will knock you back and deal sanity damage, after which he will jump in that spot and drain even more sanity if you stay in the zone of the impact. Second ability is Howling in Pain. It's an interrupt that locks the School of Magic for 4 seconds. It's a 2 seconds cast. You should stop casting to not get locked. That's pretty much it. You can't avoid that knockback, but should move away right after it happens. Check the chests and crystals spawn locations and move to the next group, which is these 3 mobs on the right from the bridge. Here we have my most hated mob, the Dominator. Similarly to S7 Informant in Stormwind, his main damaging ability is just a Shadow Bolt, but the second one is the Touch of the Abyss, and this is the one you don't want him to cast. It's a 5 seconds channeled stun which deals shadow damage and can make a huge difference if you pull big. The other 2 Mind Carvers also fear for 5 seconds, but you don't take extra damage from it. The next group is completely optional. You might need to clear it if there's a chest or to get more mementos. I usually skip it. The next group is pretty easy, focus the beefy guy and cleave the little ones. Now the second elite, Coagulated Horror. Ideally before the pull you should have your Gift of the Titans off cooldown and hopefully it procs right away. If you haven't used the orb on the first elite, you might want to use it with this guy, otherwise keep it for the zone boss. First ability is Sanguine Residue, a puddle under your feet that drains sanity and stays on the ground for a relatively long time. Second ability is Visceral Fluid, a bunch of puddles that cover a bigger area, also drain sanity, but disappear right away. This is it. Both abilities are predictable and can be easily avoided. Get some sanity back after the kill, check the crystals if you're missing any, and prepare to the zone boss. Check your cooldowns. You should have almost all of them ready at this point. The zone boss is Vezok the Lightless. He has 3 spells that he's using in a defined order. Defiled Ground is a huge beam that stuns you, dealing sanity damage, and leaves puddles that also drain sanity, 2 times less than the initial hit, but every second. When you see him charging the beam, move to either side. Ring of Chaos is a bunch of orbs around him that stun and drain sanity. After the ring, he will cast another beam, so be prepared. He will cast the beam and the ring a couple of times, and then will summon adds with Unleashed Corruption spell. The void zones where the adds spawn also deal sanity damage. And the adds, well, they're not very scary, but they do grow and start hitting twice as hard. So here is where your focusing iris can help you out. You would want to stay inside the ring all the time. If you're a hunter or a warlock, then obviously stay away from him and his abilities while your pet is tanking. After the kill, make sure you're not missing crystals, chests, or the mailbox. Use the totem or simply run to the drag entrance. Now we clear the right side. There are no new mobs before we enter the drag, and you'll probably have to kill them anyway to get to the chests and crystals. Note where the crystals guy is to turn yours in before you face Thrall. If you're low on sanity and don't want to use the orb, the best time to eat your kebab is right before you enter the zone. Okay, we're in. The very first group is 2 Mind Carvers and a Tentacle. We've seen them all in the Valley of Wisdom and know what to do. Right after we see the Elite, Annihilator Lekhal. He's like a huge shadow color. His first ability is Orb of Annihilation. He throws orbs one by one in a specific direction. They form void zones that drain sanity. Very easy to avoid, sidestep and the orbs won't get you. The second ability is Dark Force, a beam that he casts on you. You cannot avoid it, it's a focused cast. The beam itself doesn't do lots of damage, but it pushes you away really hard. Make sure you can stay as close to him as possible with the zone entrance behind you, ideally. That way, even if the beam pushes you too far away, you won't be pushed into another group. Talk to Gorona right away and check the hut for the buff and the crystal. Next group. The only mob you need to worry about is the Dominator. Melt him before he casts Touch of the Abyss. The Ravager drops pretty quickly and is not dangerous. After that, it's the Shadow Caller. The next group is easy enough to be pulled when you kill the Dominator. In this case, Mind Carver goes after the Dominator, then the Shadow Caller, Tentacle, and everything else. The bonus objective in this zone is to open all huts. Do that while you're moving deeper into the zone. Snank doesn't do much. He's a part of the bonus objective and is here to just slow you down. In this zone, all crystals and some chests are in huts. Use your map to see which ones to check. The last group before the zone boss is Dominator, Mind Carver, and Shadow Caller. Same thing here. Dominator first, then Mind Carver, and then the big guy. Zone boss, Inquisitor Gunshall. You'll need to open all required huts to start the fight. Don't forget that. His 2 abilities are Void Tart, a series of shadow bolts that you must dodge because if you catch any of them, you'll get stunned and lose a lot of sanity. Second ability is Cries of the Void. It's a shield that he casts when he's at 65 and 30% of remaining health. The shield absorbs 25% of his max health and stays up for 6 seconds. If not broken, deals sanity damage based on its remaining value. In short, break it ASAP and be ready to dodge the turret right after. That's the whole fight. The best way to dodge the turret is to hide behind the chopped tree. If you're ranged DPS, you can keep damaging him easily while behind the tree. If melee, obviously move closer when he stops casting. Use your kebab before entering the Valley of Honor if needed, but keep in mind, that the very first mob there is an elite and you'll get some sanity back. The last zone is the Valley of Honor. Misha is Rexar's pet and the first elite. His first ability is Desperate Retching. It's a disease that deals nature damage over 9 seconds and leaves a toxic puddle, toxic residue, every 3 seconds under your feet that deals additional natural damage plus sanity damage if you won't walk out of it. Second ability is Mattering Roar. Deals a lot of shadow damage and drains a lot of sanity from everyone within 9 yards, plus makes you hostile to allies. As soon as he starts the cast, run away from him to not get hit. That's pretty much it, but there is an unpleasant surprise. When Misha dies, 3 Acure Scarabs appear from his corpse. They don't do much damage, but when they're about to die, they start casting Raptured Carapace. At the end of the cast, they explode, dealing nature damage and applying a Cure Mind Toxin, which is a stacking poison that deals nature damage, and when it reaches 5 stacks, you'll get stunned for 3 seconds. You will notice a green circle, it's the impact area. To avoid it, either walk out or kill those scarabs that cast it. Beefy guy number 1, Acure Bone Crusher, casts Toxic Breath that deals nature damage and applies a Cure Mind Toxin, again. On top of that, his signature ability is Headbutt. He hits you with his head and knocks back pretty far. Make sure you don't have any groups behind you because you don't want extra enemies. This zone is all about dealing with the toxin, so watch your stacks carefully. Beefy guy number 2, Acure Venom Weaver, casts Venom Balls that deals nature damage and Concentrated Venom, a puddle on the ground that pulses, also dealing nature damage. Both abilities apply the toxin. The puddle applies a stack with every tick. When pulling big, it can be really hard to not get stunned if you can't cleanse poisons. Next group is 3 Scarabs and a Swarm Leader. The Swarm Leader is the one that's important. He also applies the toxin with his Poison Sting, but the most important is his buff called For the Swarm. He buffs all Acures within 15 yards, increasing their haste by 50%. You need to put him down first. If there is no chest, feel free to skip this group. This one is optional. Now be careful, there are a couple of scarabs hiding on the bridge and on the left from it. The zone is filled with them, so be ready for lots of movement and target swapping. They appear only when you come close, so if you need to pop an orb before the elite, either kill them first or use it before the bridge. You'll have to kill them almost always, since one of the crystals can be right under the bridge. Let's inspect the platform. The new and the last trash mob to cover is the Swarmer. He's a simplified version of the Swarm Leader. Same Poison Sting, but no buff for others. Focus them after the leader. Your focus priority on the platform should be Venom Weaver, Swarmers, and then Scarabs for the left part, and Swarm Leader, Swarmer, and Scarabs for the right part. Use lots of AoE there, but try to not pull the elite. You're freeing up some space for movement. Second elite, Acure Mind Hunter. This is a movement-heavy fight. The flavor of this zone is the toxin, and 2 out of 3 of his abilities apply it. Ability number 1 is Toxic Breath, the same one that the Bone Crusher is using. Nature damage plus a toxin stack. Second is Toxic Volley. It's 8 green void zones on the floor, each of them drains sanity and applies a toxin stack. Number 3. This is a cool one. Ravenous Charge. This one's instant. He charges to you if you get stunned by toxin, drains a lot of health and lots of sanity. On top of that, it knocks you back. This single ability is the reason why you would want to clean up some space and not get knocked into another group. Next group is a mix of already known Bone Crusher, Swarm Leader, and 2 Swarmers. Be careful though, there is still some hidden scarabs on the way. The last crystal spawn location is on the right from the arena. Now the zone boss. Rexxar. I think he's the toughest guy among all bosses in Orgrimmar and Stormwind. This is a heavy sanity loss fight with frequent movement and target swapping. You have to fight within the arena, and the space there is pretty tight. Adjust your camera closer because it can instantly change the angle and really mess up everything. So you look at Rexxar and see 4 boars. You can't target them right away, but he will call them during the fight. Right at the beginning, Rexxar will drop 3 traps. If you get into the trap, you will get stunned for 4 seconds and lose tons of sanity. Ideally, by now you should have 2 orbs available. One for this fight and another one for the last boss. You should start the fight under the orb, with cooldowns ready. The boars cast Void Quills, an interruptible ability that drains sanity and deals shadow damage. You need to switch and kill the boars ASAP. The longer they live, the more health and sanity you lose, so they are your main target. If you accidentally get all 4, then the amount of sanity and shadow damage can be deadly. As soon as the boars are dead, the fight becomes way easier. You can finally focus on Rexxar and boost him down. At 40% of health, he will cast Stampeding Corruption, a wave of void minions that crawl across the room. If one of them touches you, you will lose a lot of sanity. Here's where you'll need to move very carefully. A good thing is that they move in a straight line and you can predict where the safe spot is. That's the fight. It's hard, but it has to be done to finish the zone objective. Now take the portal back, turn in the crystals, and prepare to fight the final boss. Thrall, the final boss. The full list of his abilities looks like this. First is Surging Darkness. Thrall jumps into the center of the room and causes either the central or the outer part of the room to erupt and drain sanity, following with another eruption of the other part. Seismic Slam. A slam in front of him that stuns for 2 seconds and drains sanity, which will be replaced with Defiled Ground that has longer area effect, stuns everyone in front of him for 3 seconds, and leaves void puddles that drain additional sanity. This ability he gets from a mini-boss from the Valley of Wisdom. From the Valley of Strength boss, he will get Hopelessness, a silence that can be removed if you step on the yellow orb. From the Drag boss, he gets the shield with the same mechanic. It absorbs a quarter of his total health and erupts if you don't break it, dealing sanity damage. And finally, from Rexxar he gets 2 boars. But in this case, you actually can target them right away, which is a good thing because they charge right when the fight starts, and you can easily kill them with Focusing Iris. I hope you have an orb ready. If you don't, well, try your best. You start the fight under the orb. The boars will charge at you, and while you're within the orb, you will restore all sanity they drain, so you can use Iris to kill them without interrupts and stuns. But be ready. Thrall will cast Defile Ground as soon as he gets near you. You need to notice it and move aside. After the boars are dead, you're one-on-one with Thrall. Use your cooldowns and damage the hell out of him, but don't forget to avoid Surging Darkness and Defiled Ground. If you use Focusing Iris or Purification Protocol at the very beginning, it should be available by the time he puts on the shield. Try to position yourself on the clean parts of the room and finish the fight. Good luck, champions! I know you can do it. At this point, the guide is over and I hope it was helpful. I am planning to check how different visions are going to be in the pre-patch and will make a video about changes in strategy as well as updated gear recommendations. I could do it now, but I don't trust PTR much. There are too many changes and I feel it's better to wait a bit until they roll it out. Thank you guys for watching, I wish you all the best in Visions and see you next time. Cheers!